Hello guys and welcome to the channel. I'm Jimmy and today I'm just going to talk about my opinion on the big FAQ that dropped. I've done a video where I've gone through the FAQ and given short blurbs on everything, so that'll either come out before or after this episode. Who knows, I've not decided which way I'm going to release it yet. For this I think it's going to be a bit more raw, a lot less editing, maybe jump cuts here and there. But yeah, the core rules, I can't believe the wobbly model syndrome and the edge of the battlefield was something that was even considered, you know? Like, I've played in tournaments before where a model's been wobbling on a piece of terrain, and me and my opponents, we agree, yep, he's in terrain, you know? It's sportsmanship. I know at the higher levels of competitive play you do get knobheads that will end up being like, no, you can't do this and you can't do that, no, that's this, and rules is written. Come on, man, it's just a game at the end of the day. Edge of the battlefield as well. Who the hell thinks it's alright to go off the edge of the battlefield? Like, come on. Why? You know? That, for me, feels like something that should never, ever been addressed. And if somebody tried doing that to me, I'd just look at them and go, hey, dickhead, it's the edge of the battlefield. Alright, move you guys off there. And once they go off there, they're destroyed. Oh, no, rules is written say that I'm well within my rights. Ah, off, man. No, bollocks. And then one thing that did kind of confuse me is the disembarking from the destroy transports. Like, I've never, as I said in my previous video or the next video, I've not ever come across this where somebody has, deliberately destroyed a transport to get their unit out and being able to charge. I've never come across it, so I don't know how apparent it is. Again, it might be just one of these things right up from competitive players. But yeah, I've never come across it, so it's something that's been addressed that I didn't feel like need to be addressed. The charge phase, the whole malarkey saying that buildings now stop people. Well, if you're going through terrain or if you can move through terrain like it's not there, why in the charge phase should that be any different? So me personally, I feel like this shouldn't have been included. And I hate the fact that it says, like, for example, the flip belt or the vanguard strike for the Codex, Death Watch and Harlequins is that they can freely move up. Whereas for some reason with the Necrons, with the Wraith form, they have to count the distance, the vertical distance, in what they've rolled. So it says, note that any vertical distance moved is still counted against the distance that these models have been moved. Whereas in every other data sheet it says, moving vertically is free for this model. It's like, well, why against Wraiths? Is it because they've got the 3 up in them? It doesn't really make much sense why everything else is allowed to freely move, but then these guys are told, no, you're not allowed. Is it? Well, it could be because they can shoot and charge the unit that they've fallen back, but then again, that's another key rule that they've got. I think the beasts or something along those lines. So yeah, I just feel like this whole charge phase thing is a bit stupid. I can probably see why they've done it, but for me, it seems rather pointless. Yeah, well, what can you do? The whole aircraft thing, yeah, I agree with. I think it's stupid that people use the aircraft base to block ground units. It's just stupid. It's like, yeah, granted the base is there, you're not allowed to be within 1 inch of the model. But you've got to remember, like, for example, my book here, it's like that sort of height distance. I'm not an inch from your model that's up here. I'm down here. So it's really what they need to do is, it doesn't really look like they've clarified that in the movement phase section. But they say at the beginning that, we've been told that people are unhappy that you can't move past the base and people block it off and yada yada and all that crap. But yeah, I'm just one of these that, like, you've got to follow a narrative to a degree. I think units that are in the air shouldn't affect the units on the ground. Just no way should they. You know, it's a -1 to hit the guys in the air, but then the base can block something. It's just dumb. They're setting up the models that needed clarifying. Again, for me, is something that isn't. I don't know who would probably jump forward a unit and then go, oh well, no, it can move. It's like, well, no, it's jumping forward is its movement. Like psychic powers after the movement phase, fair enough. Like Veil of Darkness, for example, with Necrons, they can move. Well, they move and then they can jump. So, or you keep them still. Just as long as the crypt tech is near to them, they can jump forward. No issues. Again, then there's the rule of 3 thing. I agree with what Games Workshop have done here. The rule of 3 is just a simple rule to follow. Yeah, granted, it sucks that, you know, you can't have like 20 of something unless it's troops or dedicated transports, and you can knock yourself out. But yeah, I think you've got to have some limitations. Like, you're not going to have like a full army of demon princes being dropped down from different gods, especially because in the fluff, the gods sort of hate each other anyway. So you're not going to see them all that much team up unless they're under one banner. But again, there's not going to be probably 20 demon princes. Well, there might be 20 demon princes on a planet, but they're not all going to be at the same place at the same time. Onto the match play stuff. The Bolter Discipline. Having played a couple of games against the Bolter Discipline, it has made Adeptus as starter units and Heretic as starter units better on the table for me, because normal Space Marines, or let's just say Chaos Space Marines, are just average. They're an average unit, and having this does help bolster them. And I fully agree that the whole vehicle side of things, barring, you know, dreadnoughts and bikes and whatnot, fair enough, they can keep it. They're not going to make much of a difference. But if you can stick a unit that has, say, like the Land Raider, for example, that can take 2 banks of the Hurricane Bolters, that's just too overpowered. But then you can still do the same thing with the Centurions, to be fair. You can put the Hurricane Bolters on them, or whatever it is that they have in their chest, and then take bolt guns and whatnot. You can use a hell of a lot of firepower with them. So yeah, and the whole, looking at this, the special issue ammo as well. Almost forgot about that. Yeah, one or the other for me is great, because the special issue ammo where you can like wound on 2+, if you get an extra shots and wounding on 2+, then that is too overpowered. So I think, you know, one or other. If you're going up against a Horde army, you might want to, I don't know, throw the extra bolt shots into them. Or if you're going up against elite units like Custodians, for example, and wounding on 2s is going to be a lot better for you, rather than, you know, getting past their toughness 5, I believe it is. Prepared positions, it's a stratagem I've never normally used. I think I've used it once in the whole time that it's been a beta rule. So again, I'm probably not going to use it all that much. I'd rather spend my CP on other stuff. But I know there's some armies out there that do like to put prepared positions on. The tournament I went to in March now, back end of March, I'll link a thing up there to see how I've done. Yeah, I think it was used twice against me, and that was only because I got the first turn, essentially. So they were like, oh, well, I went with my Necrons, I had a lot of firepower, so that +1 to their armor save, well, helped them, really. The Tactical Restraint, getting command points back. At first I was annoyed about this, especially because you do have CP farms, especially as an Imperial Guard player as well, having Curvos, Aquila, and then Grand Strategist, and then just popping CP back, right, left, and centre. But yeah, I get it. Like, now that, you know, that was introduced, and now we've moved on, we're at a place where it's kind of accepted. I've got over the whole, oh, I can't generate CP back and whatnot. Now, it doesn't really matter. It doesn't really faze me. Tactical reserves. I don't really use reserves all that often, so for me it doesn't really affect my army. But like I said in my other video, just double check to make sure that It doesn't affect any of your battle plans. So they've included stratagems from the Space Marines, so Strike from the Shadows, the Chaos Space Marines, which is forward operatives, the Adeptus Mechanicus, Illic Night Spear, and Rangers with Appear Unbidden. There's a few others as well. Just check out the FAQ or your actual errata for your army. Then the balancing issues. Yep, again, I think Imperial Knights needed a bit of a downgrade. Like, I even thought about collecting Knights because of how powerful they are. You stick them on the battlefield and they don't really die all too often unless you build an army solely built on killing Knights and not being able to do anything else. Then yeah, you will kill a Knight player. But in games where I've gone up against Knights, like in 2 tournaments, one was the last tournament, I ended up playing a guy in my last game who just had one Knight. I think it was a Knight Crusader, or the one that has the sword and then the fist. And I managed to take a ton of wounds off of it with 10 Immortal Teslas. Managed to take it from like 16 or maybe 17 wounds down to 1 or 2. And then I just use like just Necron Warriors, then just chip them last couple of wounds off. Rotating the Iron Shields, only having a maximum of 4+. Yes, I agree with that. He did use that stratagem where he had the Bulwark. I think it's Bulwark. I can't remember exactly what it fully is called. But he had that on, and then he rotated Iron Shield, so he had a free up invuln for the 2 rounds that it was alive. Rotate Iron Shields going from 1 command point to 3 command points. This is one thing that I personally don't agree with. I think making it 2 command points would have been a lot fairer, because you can only go to a 4+ and you can only use it once. So if you've got a 5-up invuln, and if you're desperate to keep your Knight alive, then you'll use it. But Knights struggle on getting command points to begin with, like just pure Knight lists, because you can only really fit 3 Knights in and maybe a couple of baby Knights. But I think 2 command points would have been a lot fairer for that, unless if they're using the Loyal 32. But even then, again, it's like swings and roundabouts. The Death Grip, I've never come across anybody using the Death Grip before. The guy didn't use it against me in the last game that I had, so you know. The Psychic Powers for Gene Stealer Cult for the Mental Onslaught don't affect me. I'm probably never going to collect Gene Stealer Cult. I do have a Nid army, I do have a Guard army, but Gene Stealer Cult don't really do much for me. You know, I can't really be bothered with them. The Imperial Assassins stratagem, again, the person that I played last in the last tournament I went to, he used this, and I thought for 1 CP to get a Vindicar Assassin, which did a lot of damage against my few characters that I did have, was just ridiculous. He was just able to pop off like my Cryptek in like 1 turn. Failed one of his rolls for the headshot stratagem when it came to my Warlord, and I got lucky with that. So 2 CP for me is bang on. Orc stratagem, will I use the mob up rule? I do have a small collection of orcs that I've got left over from a bigger collection that I sold on. I regret selling those. But yeah, again, this mob up rule within 2 inches seems fair, really. They're next to each other, they should join them. It's a bit like the combined squads, for example, with Imperial Guard. Craft World with the Psychic Powers. Yeah, it should only affect Eldar units. I totally agree with this. It was kind of a little bit broken before this. It was very overpowered. You're going to have to see some more interesting lists now being built. Will you see Eldar and Dark Eldar allies in as much now? Who knows? And then finally, the points for the Castellans. I've only come up against the Castellan once, and the guy that I played against with, he put the 3-up invuln on it, and it was a nightmare to kill. But I eventually took it down with a Swarmlord because he had a 3-up invuln as well in combat. He even fired the one of the things to get rid of my invulns and totally fluffed it and threw a hissy fit. So yeah, again, I've only played against the Castellan once, and for me, it didn't scare me. I know they are a big bad unit and they're a decent unit, but yeah, for me, I'm not really bothered against knight players whenever I play him. With how the rules are now for match play, when it comes to Maelstrom of War and the Eternal War missions, getting rid of that, well, getting rid of the sudden death or introducing the sudden death where being wiped off the board doesn't matter. My battle plan is always just to outscore those opponents. Just play the mission. That's all you have to do when you beat knight players. A knight player taking, say if you had 2 knights and a ton of guard that can get onto objectives, then that's something to fear. But again, if it was me, I'd take cheaper knights. I'd take, the Crusaders or the Galleon or whatever. I'd keep my points cost on my knights cheap and be the big distraction units, while guardmen in Chimeras and a couple Lehman Russes just bombing up the board and just take objectives. That's all you have to do, play the objectives. So yeah, my views on the FAQ. I think Games Workshop have gone in the right direction for balancing it all out. That's about it. I think they've done well. Yeah, it's just been my thoughts. So yeah, please like and subscribe. I don't think I've got anything else to add. Yeah, please like, subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.